Welcome to Greater Seattle Choral Consortium members. I'm David Horiuchi, the past president of the board of the GSCC. I'm excited to have a special Sunday session today, establishing your organization's digital footprint with Sara Langworthy of DeveloPlay and Adam Reinwald of Open Voices. I saw one of Sara's presentations back in the Chorus America conference of 2020, and I was really excited about it and excited to get the chance to bring Sara and Adam to speak with us today about stuff that really affects all of our organizations. Just one note, or one housekeeping note, this session is being recorded. Also, if you could drop your name and organization into the chat, just so we know who's here. And with that, I will pass it to Sara and Adam. Thanks, everyone.
Hello, we made it.
Hello, how's it going?
As David said, my name is Sara Langworthy. I use she, her pronouns, and this is my colleague, Adam Reinwald. We are delighted to be here with you today. So yes, please let us know in the chat who you all are and which groups you're representing today. We definitely want to get to know you a little bit in the chat throughout the day. Adam, I'll let you say a little hello while I bring up our materials.
Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. My name is Adam Reinwald. I use he, him pronouns, and very excited to be with you today. Just back from a few days in Cincinnati at the American Choral Directors Association National Conference, seeing lots and lots of choir folks. But now we're very excited to chat with you all today.
Yay. All right. So we want to go ahead and just dive right in a little bit with a quick poll. So if you can let us know in chat, how are you feeling today about your organization's online presence as of right now? Are you thinking you can just put 1, 2, or 3 in the chat? 1 being, it could maybe use some help, or 2 is, well, it's so-so. We're doing some stuff okay, but some stuff not so well. And 3 is, we are killing it. We know exactly what we're doing. We've got everything ready to go. We'd love to hear. All right, I'm seeing some 2s already coming in. That's great. Kind of right in the middle, hoping for some, hopefully some learnings today. So that's great. Lots of 2s. Great. Love to see it. As other answers are coming in here, we wanted to give you just kind of a brief overview of who we are. So as David mentioned, I work a lot in this sort of area of consulting with organizations and artists on their online presence and digital engagement, meaning how people interact online, how you keep your audiences online happy, and how you stay connected with them. So that's my primary work, but I work with Adam in a number of ways, including beer choir, which is a thing that we enjoy doing. So we can chat more about that later if you want. But Adam, how about you?
I'm a choir director by trade. I have a community chorus here in the Twin Cities called Choral. We're 35 auditioned voices, and recently appointed as a new artistic director of the Summer Singers here in the Twin Cities. It's again an auditioned semi-pro chorus that happens in the summertime. And then, as Sara mentioned, and part of the reason why I was in Cincinnati to begin with, I was running a beer choir event. So if you'd like to know more about that, we'll be happy to talk to you about it later. But yes, seeing bunches of 2s here. So the occasional 1, some people kind of mostly feel like they've got a decent handle on it, but we've only seen 1 3 pop in, so it seems like people are feeling moderately confident about their online presence, and we'll see how that kind of translates to later today.
Love it. We love having banter throughout with all of you. So if you have questions at any point, please ask in chat. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can throughout the presentation today. So don't be shy. Please banter away with us or with each other. We love a good active comments and chat section. So please chime in as you'd like. In terms of the plan for today, I know we kind of have a limited time today, but we want to make sure that we cover a lot of your questions and kind of get through a lot today. So our plan is, first of all, we're going to talk about the name of the game, which we always think about as storytelling. And what does that mean for your online presence? How does that look? What personality might you be conveying? All of those kinds of things. The second thing, we're going to be doing some really actionable, tangible things that you can do to strengthen your website presence. And then third, we're going to talk a little bit about social media checkup, and that may also branch into our next session, which will be next month. We'll have more details about that at the end as well. We wanted to also say a special thanks to Ensign Symphony and Chorus and to Wellspring Ensemble. Both of these organizations generously volunteered their online presence for us to take a look at and to give some feedback throughout this session. So you'll see a lot of references to these two ensembles who are in your consortium. Many of you know them well. Many of you are from them. Hello. Great to have you in the conversation today. And both of these organizations said, yeah, great. Tell us what we can do to improve. We want to hear it. So we're going to be doing a lot of kind of deep dives on some various things that we saw as we looked at their online presence throughout the conversation today. So we just wanted to say thank you for being great volunteers and allowing us to kind of dive in and dive deep with all of you. Okay. So one thing that I'm sure a lot of you are running into these days is this idea that we live in an attention economy. And what does that mean? That typically in the social media world is where you really see this, but it's this idea that people really only have about 8 seconds that they're willing to give you before they start scrolling away. So you've got a very limited time window to grab somebody's attention before they click away. And though this is really reflective in sort of social media circles, we think it can actually really apply to your overall web presence as well. And this kind of changes the focus a little bit on how you go about getting somebody's attention and keeping it. And so one way that I like to think about this is how many of us have been driving on the freeway and seen really terrible billboards? Yeah, I'm going to guess that several of you are nodding your heads. And so what I'd love to do right now is to do just a quick activity with everybody. I'm going to show you the next slide for about 8 seconds, and then I'm going to ask you a couple questions about it. So here we go. All right, so that was a billboard. So I'm super curious now, what did you notice? So in the chat, I'd love you to say whether or not you could even answer the following questions. What do they do and what are they selling? And number 2 is, why should I care? So I'd love to see in chat, can you answer those questions? Not even can you tell me exactly what the billboard said, but is it even possible for you to answer those questions based on a very quick look at that billboard? I'm going to give this just a second. Adam, could you tell what it was?
No, and I've seen these slides 1,000 times, and I still have no idea what that is about, right? So we got a couple of interesting. They're selling Wibsies, made-to-order chairs, sofas. Impressive reaction time there, Tyler. Yes, very good. They are having a sale of some kind, correct?
We got furniture. We got the furniture. Okay.
There is a summer clearance. Yeah, I think so. Those seem about right. And exactly, Rochelle hits it completely on the head. Too much information on the board. Exactly right.
All right, so we are going to do this exercise one more time with a different billboard, and I'm going to ask you the same 2 questions. So here is that billboard for approximately 8 seconds. All right, so let us know in chat. Can you answer those questions about whether or not we can? Sorry, we lost it. There we go. Whether you can know what they're doing or what they're selling, or why you should care about it. All right, we've got T-Mobile on brand. Yes, it is very on brand. T-Mobile has good coverage. Yes, very easy to kind of decipher what their message is. You know what they're selling. They're selling great cell phone coverage. And why should I care? Because I want good cell phone coverage. And they got all of that onto a giant billboard with very little graphics and very little text. And so I only know they're selling phone service because of the pink. Yes, you recognized their brand. So brand recognition is another piece of this puzzle for sure. Good coverage. And now in Philly. All right, so the next one is going to be a little bit different, and it is going to be perhaps a homepage that many of you will recognize. And so I want to do the same activity here. So you're looking for these questions. What do they do? What are they selling? And why should I care? Hold on. Sorry. All right, here we go. All right, so can you answer the following questions? What do they do? What are they selling? And why should I care / why should I buy a ticket?
Big shout out to our friends at Wellspring Ensemble there.
Yep.
Let us know in the chat. It'd be interesting to see if this translates here.
They're a choir. Yes. Chorus experience, they're a choir. Yep. So you can tell it's a choir because of that a great photo that they have on the homepage. Yep. Very clear on the what. Maybe a little less clear on the why, a little less clear on why I should be compelled by this particular choir, especially in Seattle, where we know there are so many great ensembles, many of you being a part of them, who, you know, are doing this kind of work. So what makes them stand out, right? So that's kind of the question we want you to be thinking. And we want to do this with our friends at Ensign as well. So giving you the same opportunity here to take a look. All right. And then again, can you answer what they do? What are they selling? And why should you care? And why should you buy a ticket? All right. I want to point out, Leah says in the chat, no call to action. That's a really great point. We're going to dive into that in a little while. Anne says, buy tickets. The concert's March 31st. Yes. So there's more information for sure. They're presenting a spring concert. Yep, that's great. So there's lots of information packed into that homepage. You know, a little more clarity on what the call to action might be to buy tickets, to do the thing, to go to the show. And so there's a little bit more detail there. And we'll dive into more about homepages as we go here. But
Sarah,
yes,
I wonder if we could just go back one. If we could just take another look at that at the same page. I you know, in just that 8-second glance, what I found here is harder to know it's a choir.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of orchestral things happening on this front page here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, symphony and chorus, I think, covers both things, but harder to pinpoint exactly what. I know there's a concert, but harder to pinpoint exactly what.
Yep. The other thing I would say is that there's a lot to look at. And so if you're thinking about the attention economy part of this, there's a lot that your audience is trying to take in and maybe doesn't quite know where to look. So focusing that attention a little bit differently might be a way to approach some changes here. So thank you for bearing with us on that activity. And I'm going to turn it over to Adam.
And so we find that websites being what they are and your online presence being how quickly people have to react to it, you have to be able to tell a story about your organization very quickly, very effectively, and very clearly. And all of a sudden, we have to find out that all of those things need to kind of come together at the right time. So part of telling your story is the crucial aspect here. So why is that? People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. And Simon Sinek, fantastic kind of social scientist, the goal isn't to do business with everyone who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Why equals a purpose. What you believe about the world and about the place of your art in that world. This is 100% about connection. How can you connect with an audience member very quickly on your website? That is kind of the goal there. So let's really quickly talk about branding. Both of the courses that we chatted with, Ensign and Wellspring, talked a little bit about branding. They're both looking for ways to become clearer in their branding, and that makes a lot of sense because, spoiler alert, your brand is more than just your logo. Branding is your mission in perception, or what people believe you believe. Those words take a little while to kind of get around. What people believe you believe, that is your brand. It's more than just your logo there. So let us know in chat, what 3 words or maybe small phrases do you want your audience to use to describe how they feel after interacting with your organization online. If Sarah and I were putting together this for this presentation, we would hope that you feel empowered after today. We hope that you feel a sense of enjoyment. We hope that you learned some actionable takeaways. Those are the 3 words we want you to feel after the presentation today. But you tell us, what 3 words do you want your audience to use to describe how they feel after interacting with your organization? Sarah will throw a few of those up in the chat here a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got to give people a second to respond. But I will say that, I think this is a little bit of a stretch exercise often, because we think so much about, putting on the performance and doing the thing that sometimes we forget that really it's the experience that we're selling, right? And that's hard to put into words sometimes, but it's definitely kind of the core of who you are and what you do and the thing that people are interested in. So Tyler says, happy, energized, full of song. Great. Laura, excited, anticipating the concert they bought tickets for. Great. Community, the power of music. Chris had music that matters. Mm-hmm. Interested, welcome, unintimidated. I like that.
Yeah, that's very nice. I like that a lot.
Feed your soul. Yeah. So we've got a lot of great responses here coming in. So keep those words in mind throughout the rest of our conversation today, because I think that you will find they might give you a different window into maybe how to shift how you're presenting yourself online just a little bit.
I think what we find a lot of times is that online presence, and in particular your website, often is purely functional. But because we are artists and doing an artistic thing, we have to think about some of the soft things that we also need to chat about, feelings and all sorts of those things. Because feelings, it's a measure of perception, and it's very important that the perception of what you do, your mission, it matches or is in alignment with the brand, which is how the public perceives your mission. Those things have to kind of feel like they're in alignment at all times. And that another word for perception is branding. So that's a kind of a way to look at all those put together. So here's a small little insight into the Wellspring mission vision, and then how it relates to the website. So take a look. Here's the vision for Wellspring, and they put this at the middle of their homepage. A community enriched by innovative choral art. The emphasis here is mine, and the mission: Wellspring Ensemble aspires to create meaningful and emotional connections by performing diverse choral works and engaging in educational and community outreach. And then this is the top of the website. And my question is that vision and mission, especially those words that I've highlighted, is it in alignment with the website? I did not always find that to be the case, but there's some options to go and improve really quickly on those things. So that's kind of where I'm at, taking a look at Wellspring's first homepage, making sure we can bring the first thing that people see about you online into alignment with your vision, finding some innovative work there to put on the front, some meaningful and emotional connections that we can talk about in a couple other small ways, like colors and fonts here in a little bit. So the big part here is storytelling on your homepage. You have to be able to find your hook. What is that thing that people, you make sure that once they're at your page, that they make sure they want to spend quite a bit of time. And Oscar Isaac as Captain Hook is just about my favorite gift there is. So that's right on the money. So there's reasons why people come to your website. They already know you, love you, and want to buy your tickets. Or they've just learned about you and want to hear your music before they decide to engage further. So that's the hook. That's why people would be there first. So now, how can you make that easy for visitors to do either or both of those things very quickly on your homepage? That's a little bit of the keys to what we're getting at here.
All right. So as Adam mentioned, we want to make it easy to do the 2 kind of main actions that people might be doing when they come to your homepage. So we're going to use Wellspring again as an example, since we've been using them so far. And basically, we're suggesting, what would a redesign of this homepage look like? And this is, very simplistic. We did it in about, 10 minutes. So it is not comprehensive, but here's one way that you might refresh that a little bit. Instead of having that very zoomed out from afar group photo of the entire group, focusing in on the faces of your singers. It's a more dynamic shot. It's a more active shot. And then putting the text on the photo of what it is that you want people to take away. That those 3 words that we all just talked about how you want people to feel, using those, using key phrases from your mission, from your vision, and embedding those into an image that defines who you are. And then we'll pretend to keep scrolling. And as we keep scrolling, again, making it really simple, very clear call to action. Get tickets for your people who already know and love you. Watch and listen for people who are new to you. But again, using those photos that you have that capture different elements of your ensemble. And Wellspring has you all have a great repository of photos to pull from. I would encourage focusing a lot more on those closer shots as much as you can, because there's a lot of vibrancy there and there's a lot of action there. It becomes very clear what you do, whereas from the far, it's a little bit harder to tell sometimes. So that would be another suggestion that we would have right away.
And I would say if we did that a little tiny bit of the billboard test, those two kind of revamped ideas about the Wellspring website really are hit home really quickly. You know in 8 seconds what you're looking at here. A choir, I can get tickets or I can listen to them, boom, right there. And that call to action is essential. It's really the thing that we want to make sure is happening in every so often on the homepage first, and then on every other site page that you've got there. That call to action needs to be exactly kind of what people are there to do, and you make it so easy for them to do it. So just going forward a tiny bit, there's a few things that you can do to direct the eye to call attention to that. There's a couple of ways that we want to shape that and move it forward. The best way to do that, of course, is to remove things, editing, condensing, deleting things. And all of a sudden, then we have to turn the home page into a funnel of activity. Grab the attention right at the beginning. Make sure the billboard part of your homepage really is understood, clear, and very easy to get. Then you set the hook, something that allows them to make sure they want to take one of those two actions. For example, they buy tickets because they love you already, or they want to learn more. And then boom, you give them very easy access to the action itself. That's kind of what we're looking at here. And the questions that you should ask, making sure who is coming to your website, who is your audience, for example. That helps determine what your set the hook is, and also what the first action you would like it to be. And then again, which actions do you want them to take? Is it buy tickets? Is it join your mailing list? Something like just a page to just listen to music, zone out, and enjoy that. All of those are great and very easy to do. And just putting those together make for a slightly simpler idea of how to flow your page all the way through.
All right. So everything that you do on your website should have a purpose for your audience. I think this is always the key when thinking about your online presence. Your audience is the thing and the group of people that you need to focus on the most. And I like Adam's question previously, who is your audience? And I think sometimes we like to dilute that, right? We like to say everybody, or we like to say anybody who loves choral music. I would challenge you all to get a lot more specific in thinking about who are those people that we want to make sure are coming to our concerts and showing up for our activities and events. Who are the people who are our core audience? Who are the people that we want to be reaching a little bit better than we maybe are at this point? So really getting in depth so far as even to make profiles. Sometimes you'll say like, oh, we have audience member Lynn, who is a 55-year-old, person who works at Microsoft or whatever. Getting really specific on who those people are. What do they love? What is it about your group that pulls them in? The more clarity that you have on that, the easier these kinds of decisions about how are we going to present ourselves all become. So on your website, everything should have a purpose for your audience. And that purpose is to engage your audience, not to provide a historical archive of everything you've ever done. So when looking through both Wellspring and Ensign's websites, we saw a couple of examples of things that I was like, I'm not sure why that's here, because it's not necessarily for your target audience. Who is it for? So one example is Ensign on one of your pages, you have a history section, which it's great to demonstrate that you have a history of performances, that you've got however many years of experience presenting concerts in the Seattle area. I would argue that going in detail of each concert that you did in each season is a little extraneous. Like, I don't really know who that's for. If it's for your internal organization to have an archive of, I would say your website's maybe not the best place to keep that. That said, I think there are great ways to demonstrate your history through archival photos, through, previous recordings or streams or any of those kinds of things that, again, are much more active than sort of a list of the concerts that you performed. So really representing your org's history in those more vibrant ways is great. I would say maybe take out the details of the specific season and everything that was performed on that season, because who is that for? So this is just one example, but I would say with all of your organizations, this is a good lens to use when you go through and say, okay, what should we keep and what should we ditch on our website? Ask the question, who is this for? If it's for your audience, maybe you want to keep it. If it's for your board, maybe less important. There are other ways to share that information that don't have to live on your website.
Yep, Ensign chiming in here with that's exactly what it's for, internal needs, and then the realization that, yep, maybe we can switch it to member only. There you go.
There you go.
That's great. I think that's a good start already. We've got just a couple questions, Sarah. Can we have time to just take those real fast?
I love it.
So, Peters, are you suggesting that every element of the homepage should be engaging for the audience, or everything on every page on the whole website? Very good question. So, what we're going to talk about as we kind of go along here is having kind of that nice flow, Peter, that says not every single box or element needs to be an engagement option. However, it should kind of direct the visitor's eye and direct their time to a specific idea or call to action in particular. That's what we find helpful. Even if, as Chris mentions, people shouldn't need to scroll on a homepage, you may want to include that because that helps set that hook a little bit more, right? Not having absolutely everything at the very top, though that is something we will get into here a little bit. But yes, it should have a little tiny bit of flowing down kind of all the way through. Sarah, you want to take anything there?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I would say is that so much of this is not necessarily about the things and the stuff that you're doing. It's more about how you're doing it. So you ask, or is everything on every page, the whole website need to be this way? A lot of it is just in the language that you're using on your website, the copy that you come up with. And we'll talk more about that and give some examples of that in a little bit. But thinking more conversationally, right? If you were going to invite somebody personally to this concert, what would that look like? Would you be just like, come to my concert is at 7:30 p.m. on this day? Or would you be more like, hey, there's this great thing that we're doing. You'd really love this piece because of XYZ reason. I think you should join this because of blah, 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 right? You're thinking about the connection points you have to those people that you're inviting. Your web presence should be the same way. So less sort of informational and more relational would be what I would argue.
And if we relate again back to the storytelling idea, the best kind of parts of the story are not just right at the very top. Right? Mm-hmm. It has to be all the way throughout, and it has to find a way to kind of keep the reader engaged, the visitor engaged as it goes along until the lovely twist ending, or maybe not twist ending, but just simple ending at the bottom, right? So another quick pro tip, as you are building your website and your online presence, let other people help you do the storytelling. Why? Because it's super important to know that what others say about your art is 13 times more important than what you say about your art. All of a sudden, you start to see these different folks multiply, and you've got reputation building and advocacy building happening on your behalf without you doing it. The faster you grow, the faster your advocates multiply, and the faster your support base grows as well. all the way through. That's just a very, very kind of a tricky thing to realize. Oh yes, maybe we should make sure that somebody else talks about how wonderful we are. That's a good thing. Testimonials, interviews, post concert comments, that you might collect. You might want to make sure that you put a face with a name that you're kind of quoting and with proper credit here, but it shows that you have an impact in the community. It shows that your product is worth someone's time. I think those are very important there, to make sure that all those are all available. And if you don't have an organizational love notes folder, you absolutely ought to have one. Wonderful things that people have written in to say your performance meant this to me. It really changed this for me. And maybe that's sometime you say, would you mind saying that again into my phone here for a quick video? We'd really, really appreciate that. It meant a lot to us that you took the time to say that. And we think that other audience members might want to hear that as well. So an option for sure there is to let other folks tell your story, tell how wonderful you are. We noticed that that's for me with Ensign's website, Wellspring's website. That was the thing that was missing the most. Is I think you've developed a wonderful community, and now I want to hear those community members talking about how wonderful that community is, not just you all. So that would be my comment to Wellspring in particular. Get some of these testimonials and things that these people have loved about your performances. Make sure they're online, proper credit, put a name with a face, but that's a great way to make sure that people can talk about your story instead of just you.
Agreed.
So I think the thing next is we kind of run through a bunch of stuff. So let's very quickly take a 2-minute break. Just do a little stretch. If you've been on for a little while, if this is you'd like to, you can put a great chance to put some questions in the chat. We've run through a bunch of stuff about storytelling and the flow of your website and all online, and we've kind of digested a lot of things really quickly, Sarah.
We have indeed. So if folks have questions, please let us know. We want to get to as many as we can today. And yeah, taking a 2-minute break. I love a 2-minute break in a presentation. Everybody gets to breathe. Exactly right. Get a little swig of water. What is this GIF that you picked from, Adam? Is it like a morning show?
I believe this would be a morning show or something like that. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Kind of hit it perfect.
Good.
Maybe even on the Weather's channel. I don't know. I'm not totally sure. Never totally sure with all the things. Again, great time to put things in questions in the chat. It's really wonderful. We are curious. It'd be interesting to hear from the folks at Wellspring and at Ensign. If we bring up something specific on your website, if you have a comment about that, like Ann did with the historical archive and how it's often referenced internally, it'd be great to hear those things. So feel free to bring those up.
All right, we got a question. One question I have is how, as a choir, to get that feedback?
That's a great question. I think that you have to keep your powder dry a little bit with how much you ask your audience to do other things other than just attend. But it's always wonderful to do an audience survey. Just to have a chance to maybe put a very small piece of paper on everyone's chair at one concert every couple of years and let them fill that in, give them a very obvious place to turn that in, and maybe even a little incentive, like turn this in for a quick digital download or a piece of chocolate or something like that. An easy way to do that. You want to ask your audience a little bit about their demographic characteristics as well. That helps build those profiles, as Sarah was mentioning. Who goes to your website? Who's buying tickets on your website? Well, now who's at your concerts? What do they have to say about those concerts? And following up with them, provided they give all the right contact information, it's really, really important to do so. Especially if they said, I didn't love this aspect of the concert. I didn't love the lack of parking. And you want to say, okay, I understand that. Can we help you get to the concert next time? Or if somebody says, I really loved how you did X, Y, and Z in this program, and it made me feel like this. That's the person who you email and say, would you care to say that into a video, for example, or maybe could we use that quote online so other audience members hear that as well?
Jen has a similar question related to testimonials, whether in video or written. Is it best to put these on the homepage or a spot to, click to read and watch? I think it depends a little bit on the testimonial, but I would say that sprinkling them throughout your website is never a bad idea. Having one or two on your homepage is not a bad idea. It depends, again, all of this is kind of alignment to your mission and to your vision, but it's important to have these reflected. So whether you feel like, that's just too much scrolling on our page, or it's too much clutter, but maybe you put it on your concerts page, right? You have a season page for all of the concerts that you have for that season. Maybe you put them there, sprinkle them in some places. So I think you can get creative with where they go. And we'll talk about video on homepages in just a bit. And then David has a follow-up question. I've heard that for accessibility, sight impaired reasons, it's better not to use click here. And you would be correct about that. This is one that is a hard change for some of us, I would say, in our generation to make. I struggle with this sometimes too. I'm like, wait, I click here. No, don't say click here. This is because of screen readers. So the way that screen readers read linked information, it's actually much more confusing that way. And I don't have a resource off the top of my head that talks about this, but if you look up like screen readers and link accessibility on websites, there's some great information out there about how to do that properly. All right.
Well, let's work on that website a little bit. Here's some tips and tricks to better tell your story. And these kind of relate directly to what we saw with Ensign and Wellspring. First off, we're going to take a look at the header bar. So we're kind of relating back to what Peter and Tyler were talking about with making sure that everything right on the very top should be there. I think that this is about all that a choir, community chorus, a pro choir, anything really needs to have on their header bar. Tickets, watch and listen, about us, some sort of a contact page, and some sort of a donate page, or donuts.
Donut? I like donut pages.
Yep, that'd be great. You should never need a button for home, because your logo should do that for you. And I know that that's taking some generations a little bit longer to figure out, and that's okay. But I think I would remove that, because it should always be right there at the top anyway with your logo. So let's take a look. What's missing from header 1 here, and what's missing from header 2? Let us know in the chat. So we see what is up here. There's a lot of stuff there. What's missing? What's not there that we should maybe be asking to shift a little bit here, both for either header 1 or header 2? Please let us know in chat what might be missing.
Mm-hmm. Or what you might consolidate.
Yep, what might consolidate. Again, yeah, yep. Edit, condense, delete.
Make it shorter, not longer.
And as I mentioned, I'd get rid of that home button, because it's one thing we don't need. And we've already talked a little bit with header 2 about possibly moving the members idea down to the footer. So I think that's a great way to kind of get out of there. Good. So yes, exactly right. For both of these choral symphonic organizations, a watch and listen idea. People want to hear you and want to hear what you're doing right away and right there. Exactly right. You kind of grab that. Yep. So number 2, there's a support button, exactly, but not a donate button. So maybe support in particular and we'll talk about this a little bit later, with Wellspring's header number 2 here. The support page is, there's a lot going on. There's volunteers and a number of other things happening there. But I would say, yes, a way to make it so that people can donate that much simpler. Exactly right. And then missing social icons. I think that's probably about right. Most every website now has the ability to put social icons right there. And if you're telling and doing some good work on social, that's a great way to make sure it's included as well.
I want to highlight Tyler's comment too, because I think this is a really key one. Tyler says, I'd think of the YouTube logo as a watch/listen button. I think you're right. I think a lot of people might think of it that way, but think about what happens when you click on that button. It takes you to YouTube and away from your homepage. And one of the things that I tell to my clients all the time is that part of the reason you want your website to be a really welcoming and robust place is because it is your home on the internet. It is the place, the only place where you actually get some control over the experience, what's shared in what ways and how. as soon as somebody clicks away to YouTube, they might watch part of one of your videos, but then they're off on a YouTube rabbit hole, right? Like they've decided, oh, I'm going to move on to this in this other thing, right? They may not stay with you. And so the advantage of a watch listen page is you can embed those videos and keep people on your page with some very clear call to actions, right? So they watch a video and then you say, oh, hey, here's how to get tickets for our next concert. So I would argue that having both and in that case is great, because the thing that you are selling is your experience listening to music, right? That is the thing that you do. You provide art, you provide music. And so people need an opportunity to be able to hear that, and providing multiple ways to do that is not a bad thing. Let's see, any other questions I'm going to get to right here? All right, I think that all great feedback coming in chat, so thank you for that. Next pro tip: show, don't tell. If you're ever asking yourself while looking at your website, if it has too many words, spoiler alert, it has too many words. This is something I see all the time with every website ever. Everybody is often there's a lot of struggle to make things more concise and to condense down to, readable, yet having the full information, right? It's a very hard line to walk. So I'm very sensitive to this. So for example, in Ensign on your homepage, there's this little about text section that's kind of right under your main header bar with all of the imagery. And I read through this, and I have some feedback on each kind of chunk of it. So this is the first line of text that anybody on your site sees that is not, in your header bar about your upcoming concert. And in that case, what we end up with, so for the first sentence here is, Ensign Symphony and Chorus fills a unique space in the panoramic performing arts scene of Puget Sound. I don't quite know what that means, and you don't name the space. So in conversations with all y'all, we heard a lot that Benaroya Hall was like the thing, right? That is the thing that you love performing there. That's your main space, but it's not named here. And so me, as an outsider, not from Seattle, coming into this, I'm like, oh, a panoramic performing arts scene. I don't know what that means. I need more context there. So again, thinking about who are these new people who you might be bringing in, and what is the space? Go ahead and name it in that particular instance. A broad repertoire of joyous music. Where can I see and hear that example easily? How do I do that? There was not a quick way to, and listen to some of our previous concerts that is hyperlinked to another page or something. I'm sorry. I know this is maybe controversial and people might hate me for saying it, but nobody wants to read your mission statement in its entirety. I know a lot of groups do this. And a mission statement is a really important piece of information for your organization, largely internally. That doesn't mean that you can't use elements of your mission statement, elements of your vision statement, but reading a mission statement is often the thing that turns, at least me, and maybe I'm the only one, but it turns me off the quickest, because I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm being told about this organization. And the reason that, we all craft mission statements to be what they need to be a mission statement, but a mission statement is not a communication strategy. So I would argue, break this down a little bit, use some of the language that you have. The bless and uplift audiences is great, using some of those key phrases, but in a way that is really tailored towards your audience. The other thing is the whole thing is too wordy. Sorry. I also am guilty of this often, being too wordy. I will send things to Adam and I will be like, hey, can you make this about half as long for me, please? So
it's true.
It's true. I also have this problem. So if I were going to redo this might be an example of how I would restructure that. I would say something like, the Ensign Symphony and Chorus fills Benaroya Hall in Seattle with joyous music to bless and uplift audiences. Listen to the recent world premiere performance of One by One featuring the Ensign Youth Chorus. So the benefits of this, it's a main feature of your group, the Benaroya Hall. So mention it right up front. That is the thing that makes you different from a lot of other groups, is that is your key place that you perform. It still mentions the keywords in your mission statement that are essential to your organization. And it lets audiences easily listen to your music. So this image on the slide here is basically what I'm trying to do is embed the video. What would be how I would recommend that. You can pick whatever feature song you would like, but it's great to have an example right there that for somebody new, they can just easily click play and hear whatever your favorite song of your group, or you think the group is the best, whatever. The thing that you think exemplifies your sound or the experience of your organization the best, that's what should go on your homepage. Again, you can control what people see on your homepage. You're not going to be able to control whether all of these people will be able to see it on YouTube or on Facebook or in any other social media platform. So thinking very strategically about which things to include on your website, especially when it comes to video, very important. Embed the video on the homepage. Yeah.
Exactly right. And part of that, I think, is that once you've kind of condensed, edited, and got that down to something a bit more manageable, be consistent and provide a unique look and feel. I'm going to use my colleague Sara's website as an example here. This is just from a chunk of her website. What I'm talking about are colors, fonts, logos, and visuals. I love this. Not only is it a great picture, Sara, but it's framed wonderfully. The logos, the colors are consistent throughout the site. The text here is easy to read, and it's very simple, correct size, and everything. It's a great example of that. If you would like to see a wonderful example of how to be consistent with your visuals throughout a website, your colors and all that, go to DeveloPlayLLC.com. It's a wonderful part there. I'm going to take a look over here at the Wellspring About page. And this was kind of about as big as I could make this section. For me, the font is too small. I don't know if everybody in Seattle just has better eyes than I do, but I found both Ensign and Wellspring just fonts way too small. It's hard to read. It's not terribly unique. And so far, the only thing about the Wellspring website that was very, very consistent is the color black in the background. And so that kind of lack of color to me maybe needs a rethink overall. So I would say, as you're taking a look at your colors and fonts, something that pops is great. Fonts that are easy to read, sans serif fonts are wonderful, but make sure they're the right size. And if, again, you're worried about space, then bring some things out, take it out, consolidate, edit, delete, all those things throughout that section.
Adam, I'd love to say a quick thing about templates on websites. So both for Ensign and for Wellspring, Adam already mentioned that your home button, instead of it being on your logo, was its own little part of the header. I know that sometimes that comes down to particular templates that you're using. And I would say the same is true of text size. I think the way that we're moving in terms of the way that web culture is moving is bigger is better. We want readable. And also the other thing I would recommend is white space, or in the case of Wellspring, black space, but basically space on your page between blocks of text. It's much easier on the eye. It's much better to read that way. It's much clearer for your audience to follow. And so I would recommend thinking about that with your templates as well, doing as much of that as you can within your template, or thinking about maybe ditching it and getting a new one. There are a bunch of different options depending on what web platform you're using. It's a little bit of work on the front end, but you may find that there's just a lot there that's a lot more helpful for you when you're trying to make edits to your website. All right, Adam, take it away.
Exactly. So if you want people to help you, you have to make it that much simpler, right? You have to make it really, really easy all the way through. And the best way to do that, donating and volunteering, both for Wellspring and Ensign, we have a couple of options for you, a couple of ideas. Wellspring, your support page has lots of great ways for people to support, but there are no links for how people should take that action. Okay, so if I wanted to volunteer, there would be no contact page or no kind of form to fill out or link to click to do so. And there it says, yes, make sure you do email the info at, but I think there's a way to make that a lot simpler and more direct. Ensign, your donate page is a much easier donate option, but it's a lot of text. Before, Ensign Symphony Chorus relies on donations to bridge the gap between valued price tickets and cost of performing at a professional caliber and a world-class facility.
There's a lot of words.
But if we were to simplify, all of a sudden a picture, we love singing here, and we know you love hearing us here. Your donations make that possible. And it's a much simpler way of kind of getting around all of that as it goes. And I think it's a great way to take a look at your website and say, okay, maybe we can make this simpler. Again, easier to digest. And again, what's the call to action?
I'd love to take a quick pause before we move to social media and ask if there are any questions about website stuff. I know we are motoring through things very quickly. We want to be respectful of everybody's time today. And so if you have questions about website stuff, please pepper it in as we're kind of wrapping up here, talking more about some social media things. So just wanted to mention that as well. All right. So in terms of social media, so what now? I love this GIF because it really speaks to my heart right now when it comes to social media. If I don't put out 100 pieces of content every second, I will be instantly forgotten. That is how it often feels on social right now. And I will also acknowledge I have changed my tune a lot on social media over the years. I used to be a big proponent of it, thought it was great. The organization should always be doing it. My love of social media has, cooled a little bit over the last 3 to 5 years, as I think many of ours has. However, it also often feels like a necessary evil when doing business as an organization, trying to get new people and, garner support and get butts in chairs, all of that kind of stuff. So I wanted to give a couple of different suggestions for ways to be on social media and to be thinking about your social media presence. Also acknowledging that I'm going to guess very few of you have a full-time social media staff person, which is often what it would require to really be moving forward in social media. So I'm thinking about a billboard approach versus the hamster wheel. So the hamster wheel is what, you could do if you had time to post 100 pieces of content every minute. You would just be on the hamster wheel, constantly posting things, getting engagement, all of that stuff that we know feeds the algorithm and makes your posts appear more to people and all of those things. It's exhausting. It takes a lot of time, and there are zero guarantees. It's really great. And then the billboard approach, which is what I see a lot more organizations taking these days, which is just like, I'm going to put up my event. Here's where it is, when it's happening. People can see it on Facebook. It's there, or on Instagram, or whatever platform you like to use. But I'm not going to spend a ton of time trying to drum up a bunch of interest on social media. So it really depends on what you want to do. This post, I believe I took from Ensign, one of your recent Facebook posts. One of the biggest things that you can do on social media, biggest tips I can give you, is to respond to comments. So when people engage on your posts, you should at least like them, but better yet, respond if you can as your organization. So I see you've got a couple people who are presumably singers or members of your ensemble, responding to Diana and saying, yeah, Amber, we'd love to have you come and join us. Something like that, right? That, even just those little actions, not only does it increase your post's visibility on Facebook, it also really makes that connection with your audience that, hey, they responded to me. That feels good, right? So thinking about what are those little things that you can do. You can also invite all of these people to like your page. So if these are folks commenting who maybe don't already like your page, there is a way, complicated to explain, but you can look up exactly how to invite people who have responded to like your page if they have not already. And there are a couple of different ways to do that within the business suite within Facebook. So I won't go into that in a ton of detail. But the other thing that I would say that you can do to kind of freshen up your social media posts is taking it from something like this, which I'm just calling it, this is a made-up post. So that from that choir that you liked once because your bratty niece told you you had to. their post is reserve your tickets now for our fall program, and then a link to the tickets page. And that's kind of dull, right? There's not much there that I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. But but if that same post looked something like this, where it says, are you feeling the midweek slump? Us too. What's helping you feel motivated today? We took a little time at our rehearsal last night, and here's a little behind the scenes content, right? So there are some things like that that you can do either with content you already have, or be a little bit thoughtful about you, or asking your singers or other ensemble members, maybe take a short video during rehearsal so that we can show the behind the scenes of what it's like to prepare these programs for you. Thinking just a little bit about what are those easier things we can access and that we can put up to kind of zhuzh up those posts a little bit and make them more interesting, more likely to boost some engagement for your group on social media.
And that video on your phone is free $99 because it's simple. Just have someone stand up and take it for just a second, right?
Yep.
Good questions. What are the copyright implications of this? For anything that you would put on something like that for 5 seconds, 0.
Not going to matter. For a short post, don't put a whole song up. And I always recommend for clients who are asking about live streaming, and we'll get into a lot of this more in the second session next month. But, if you're worried about it and you think it's something that would be, if you're going to be doing like a Beatles rendition of something, like maybe don't do that song. But if you are doing something that is, in the choral world, and you want to make sure that you have clearances from the publisher to do that and all of that, like I strongly recommend reaching out to publishers. We'll also say that music publishers are not all on the same page about how to handle this, and it's a little bit murky right now. So we'll definitely dive into that more in the next session that's more targeted at video. But that is a great question. So. All right, so last example here, Ensign. This was a recent post that you put on your Facebook page. So I want to know in chat, how might people, make this a little different to kind of zhuzh it up a little bit and make it more exciting. So I would love to see some comments for our friends at Ensign in chat from all of you, because you're all learning how to do this. So, if it were me, I might make a comment about how spring seems like it's never coming, but I live in Minnesota, so that would be why. But some sort of comment about spring, or how we're very looking forward to spring. Again, something that's really invitational. Maybe talking about a particular piece that you're going to be doing on the program and why it makes you think of spring, or any of those kinds of things that might be conversational things that you might say to a friend about what's going to be on this future concert. So would love to continue to hear in chat for folks what suggestions you have for all of that. Adam, we are starting to wind down here a little bit. We've got a couple more things. I'm going to shift and talk about YouTube here briefly. Maggie says, make sure to add a link. Yep, that's a great point. I forget if this was just an image or whether it was linked. I think it was just an image. So yes, add the link to where people can, can participate. Yep. Is it always better to have faces versus sort of a natural scene? I would say mix it up a little bit. Algorithmically speaking, probably faces do better. But I think everybody's developing their own concert branding for each concert, and so I would say don't make that determine exactly how we have to have faces in it in order for it to work on social media. Don't worry about that level, but I would maybe follow this post up with some photos of your smiling singer saying, we're preparing this concert and it's going great and we can't wait to share it with you, things like that. Peter, spring doesn't appear to be coming here in Seattle either.
Minnesota, we understand completely.
We get it. All right.
So your next slide, go to your next slide, because I think it's really on the money.
All right. So one of the things about social media is that YouTube kind of gets lumped in as social media, but it's also a video platform, and it's kind of confusing which thing it is. I would argue it's a little bit both. So I wanted to share a little bit in this session about ways to improve your YouTube presence. Again, sort of as quick and easy things, and we'll dive more into these things in the next session for sure. But the main things that I look for in a on a YouTube channel is, what does your channel page look like? So when somebody comes to your channel and they see, that main page, you've got a header, and then you've got some videos on here. This is an example from our friends at Wellspring. And this is what their channel page looks like. It has 2 playlists featured, popular videos and videos. And there's a header image up top that I didn't grab in this, but spruce up your channel page a little bit. So if somebody new is coming to your choir page, maybe have a playlist that is literally titled "New Here, Try These." Something like that really, again, invites people into what your music has to offer. And maybe in that playlist, you have 2 or 3 videos that are really great representations of your sound. The other thing I would say is really focusing on your titles, your descriptions, your tags. That is essential, not only for, again, YouTube's algorithm and how it recommends content, but also for your audience. So if you take this first example that I'm pointing at here, the title of this is Wellspring Ensemble, Grace, arranged by Mark Hayes. Okay, why should I click on that? If you're really looking for the particular song, you should put Grace, arranged by Mark Hayes, and then put Wellspring Ensemble at the end, right? Think about why people are clicking on something. Because they're interested in that thing. Why are they interested in that thing? In part, it's because of what you're telling them about that thing. So often for our YouTube videos, we will put like internal titles, like such and such promo video. Don't put that on YouTube. Think about like welcoming audiences to Ben Roya Hall or whatever it is. Something that is, again, very tailored to your audience, very specifically framed around hooking them in. Yeah, Adam.
I just want to do really quickly 3 things for Wellspring on your YouTube channel. One thing you talked to us about was the innovation you all did with the online concerts, the virtual concerts you have. Those are fantastic, but they're only available through, if I click that live button on the top right now, that's the only way to get there. Those need to be their own separate thing, and they need to be on your website because they are so wonderful. They need to be a front and center there. With all playlists, you can also organize the order of them. For example, you want to, with videos here, you've got an 88 view video and then a 473 view video 2 later. That 473 needs to be at the front, and so it shows that people are checking it out and people want to follow along all the way through there. So making sure that it always has. And when you're on YouTube, remember that your description section, I know Sarah's about to get that, it's not just for humans, it's also for the algorithm and the bots. Making sure that you're writing something so that the word grabbers can make sure they've got enough information there too.
Yep. So I'll be talking a lot more about that next time. I'll be actually like digging into, okay, here's exactly where all of this stuff lives. Cause I know YouTube is a little bit more foreign to a lot of people. And that's kind of where I, where I live. Tyler had a great question here for the algorithm. Is it good to have the chorus name in the video title? I would say for ones that are song cuts. So for example, this Grace arranged by Mark Hayes, Wellspring Ensemble, I think that's great. I would just reorder it. So I put the name of the ensemble last because chances are that's not why people are clicking on it. They're clicking on it because they want to hear this song by this person. And then your ensemble's doing it. So there is an advantage to putting your name in there in terms of search preferences and that sort of thing. But you can also tackle that with tags and descriptions. So you don't have to always put it in the title, right? So if it doesn't make sense to put it in the title, then don't put it in the title. Again, thinking titles being more engaging, more for the humans, descriptions being more for humans and robots.
But be consistent. In your popular videos, you've got Wellspring Ensemble first. You've got WE, which I know is a kind of an internal small name, and then you've got later Wellspring Ensemble kind of at the middle. So be consistent with what you're doing, right? So people can say, "Oh, I can know exactly where that's at," and they always find Wellspring Ensemble or WE at the end of something like that. It's always helpful.
Yep. I'll also talk a lot about thumbnails, things like that, and sort of best practices when it comes to those sorts of things in the next session that we'll be doing next month. And the other thing I want to mention is talking a little bit about analytics. So I know that analytics are scary, but I did want to know, let us know in chat if it would be helpful for us to go through some basic YouTube analytics that you should just be kind of keeping an eye on. So let us know if that would be helpful in the next session, where we'll be talking a lot about video. What does video mean for choirs now? Right? In a post-pandemic world, a lot of choirs during the pandemic had to shift to doing online stuff. And now everybody's kind of shifted back. But maybe there's this audience over here that you connected with that doesn't live close to you geographically. How do you still serve them? How do you still reach out to those folks in meaningful ways? So Chris says, yes, please. I think that's to the YouTube analytics. So that's great. And yes, our next session will be Sunday, March 19th at 1 p.m. Pacific time for y'all. So we are excited to be coming back then. And then we also have another opportunity that we want to make sure to share with all of you. And that is that we are currently offering online group consultation sessions. So basically, what we just did with your folks with Wellspring Ensemble and Ensign Symphony and Chorus, where we take kind of a deep dive and look at your web presence and give you some individualized feedback, and then meet with a group of up to 4 organizations per group to kind of review those things, deep dive on topics that you're interested in, give you some, very specific guidance on things like, the about section that we did with Ensign. So, some of those kinds of things that might be especially helpful for you on an individual level. But you're also meeting with your colleagues. And so your colleagues can give you some background or some advice and some other things that they have learned along the way as well. So we are currently offering those consultations. Those are $250 per organization. We're trying to make it as cost effective as possible. It would be 3 virtual sessions with Adam and I. And, we'd be providing hopefully a lot of helpful information for each of your organizations, because we're really passionate about helping people do online stuff better, basically, when it comes down to it. That's really what we love to do. So if you would like to learn more about that, you can head over to developlayllc.com/group-consultations. Otherwise, Adam and I both do this consulting one-on-one as well. So if you are interested in having either of us come in to work with your organization one-on-one, we are happy to do that. And you can certainly reach out to us directly to do that if you would like. Again, I'm at DeveloPlayLLC.com, and Adam is over at Open Voices. So I'll put those on the screen right now as we're wrapping up. Any other questions come in chat, Adam, that you saw?
No. There's a couple questions about which algorithm things to think about, and we will add that into the next section. That's kind of universally asked for here. That's great. But no other questions came in. And if between now and then something pops in, you can always reach out to us. David Horiuchi has our information, and you can find us there. Feel free to reach out. Also, I would say continue this discussion. It's wonderful that the Greater Seattle Choral Consortium exists, because not many other places around the country have something like this, where you are kind of trusting each other to make sure that you can all be better together. And that's really quite something. So commendable on our end. Here in Minneapolis, we have 1,000 choirs, and we do not have anything like this, the consortium. So kudos to even being here with that organization. I think it's wonderful.
We do have a great question on how often should a website be refreshed. Such a great question. There are different theories of thought on this, I think. But I would argue that your homepage should probably be the thing that is refreshed the most, because it should be reflective of what is happening in your organization now. So, taking our friends over at Ensign, they had their upcoming concert information right there. Again, thinking about that core audience that you already have, you want to make it really easy for them to find the next concert's information. So that needs to be refreshed every time you have a new program or a new offering coming up. Other parts of your website, maybe once a year, like your About Us section, maybe doesn't need to change every 2 months. It can wait a little bit more. So I would say it just really depends. But making sure that, as you spend time kind of refreshing each portion of your website, really thinking about those questions that we talked about earlier, storytelling, those words that you want people to feel about the experience that they have when reading or when looking through your page, going at it with that lens and thinking about a website refresh not happening in the next week, right? But happening over the course of the next 6 months. Which pages are priority? Which ones do we want to make sure that we dive into first because everybody's visiting them? Pro tip, look at your website analytics. That can also tell you where people are coming in. So using that information and using those lenses to really reframe how you're presenting yourself, you can do that in a gradual way, but thinking about which pages, when, and all of that, like that can be at your own time.
I would say that one of my number one turnoffs when I go to a website is seeing old information. Like this concert from October is still on the website and it's March.
Right.
And so I would say at minimum, remove things that have just passed. So that would be my minimum there.
Yep. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. We had a great time today. You were such a lively group in chat. We really appreciate it. It makes these sessions so much better if people are asking questions and bantering away. So we really appreciate that. We hope that we will see you all back very soon for our next session, Sunday, March 19th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We'll be doing StreamYard again, same kind of platform that you used today. So hopefully we will see you back then. If you have questions in the meantime, please reach out to David or to us directly. And we would love to get those questions and to continue the conversation. Yay.
Thanks all.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.